I try to ask when I have toy experts on the podcast and stuff, like what makes a good toy. And for somebody that put together 60 games, I feel like some of them are probably more fun than others, or you probably tried more than 60 and you whittled it down to 60 that were actually good. So in your opinion, what makes a game fun and easier to be in that playful state versus one that doesn't really work, or it becomes too competitive and it'll kind of spiral out of control? It either doesn't take off or it has too much launch momentum and builds too much energy.
I think finding simplicity in the game is always useful, especially when you're working with young kids. If there's too many rules, I've ever sat down to play a board game and it's like you have to like watch a whole video or read an entire booklet on the rules. Maybe the game is great, but right, like the games in my book, at least, they take like there's a low barrier to entry, which I think is useful in our busy society. It's like, if you finally have time to play, you want to kind of hop into it, but, and also making it like, in terms of making it simple, right? Like having the materials, like you don't need a ton of materials, doesn't take a ton of cleanup and prep. It's easy to do when you want to do it. And also a lot of people are different too. And that's where what I recommend in my games and in everything is make it your own, right? Like a lot of times in the games, I would say, like, especially early on, right? Because we are posting these every day. We didn't, like you said, we didn't use every game we created. We created more games, but we also had to make it fit into the book, right? With my publisher. But make the game your own. Like I would think, oh, we're going to do this for the game. And then I think that the kids are just going to want to do that. And then I'd be like, well, you should do that. Like, that's what we're doing, right? Like this one game is 3D paper bouquets, or I don't remember the name we finally finished on, but you'd make like 3D bouquet out of paper, and I was like, oh, we're going to do these beautiful calla lilies. And, like I had looked it up on Pinterest. This was early on in the challenge. And so I'm the only one that finished that. Like my older son made this cool 3D bouquet his own. And then my younger son, he just made like a picture of him hugging his grandma. And at first I was like, that's not even flowers. But then I laughed because I realized this is just for fun and connection. And that's beautifully inside of the mission to connect, right? Because part of the games were to connect with other people. And so here's some flowers and here's a hug, and like being open to the magic that can arrive in play and not being so closed-minded, right? Like having the growth.
I think it's so funny. You see parents doing that all the time. And even I do it with my little nieces. We're, playing soccer in the backyard and stuff. And I try to make a fun bit out of it, but they'll pick up the ball and just start throwing it and be like, girls, we're playing soccer now. That means we use our feet, right? But what I'm saying is like the rules of the game are more important than the joy in your heart right now, 4-year-old. So put the ball down and let's be serious. And you're like, no, we didn't come out here to be serious. We came out here to play around. And so why are we worried about the rules? It's so funny.
Which is the loose part